And Kelly, without further ado, I know we have a special guest here tonight.
That we do.
We're going to have a little fun with it.
I am so excited. George Anthony is here with us now. George, you are a trainer now, but I wanted to talk a little bit about your history first because you've been a track announcer, you've been a cop in New York City. Yeah. Quite a colorful resume there.
Yeah, it's been a kind of mixed bag for all these years, my 35th year now training the horses, and I do come from the police background, and I retired from the police department and always wanted to get into horse racing some way, and then I thought maybe announcing would be the way to do it. And really I learned to call the thoroughbreds before I learned anything with the harness. I was really more of a thoroughbred fan, even though I lived about 15 minutes from Yonkers. But I didn't get a break in the thoroughbreds, and my first break was Ocean Downs, and that's where I called the races for the first time in 1977 through 1985. But I've been to a lot of other tracks, Harrington, Free State, Laurel Raceway, Roosevelt, Yonkers, Tioga Downs, and maybe Pocono Downs. Is the announcer listening?
I lost count there. Was that 8 or 9?
Yeah, something like that. It's been a lot of fun for me. I've had a good time. I'm still having a good time, and that's why I haven't really contemplated retirement. I'm enjoying myself, and while I continue to be successful and have a lot of fun doing what I do, I still want to do it, So here we are, we're racing 9 horses at the Meadowlands. I own 14 altogether. I have a few babies with Steve Elliott, so things are moving along pretty good. We're having a good meet right here at Pocono Downs. No complaints.
George, you're doing my job. You're answering all my questions here. So then you started out as an announcer. How did you get into training?
Well, as a matter of fact, an old-time trainer from Ohio, he was a really great horseman. He's dead now, was Eddie Taylor. And Eddie Taylor even raced here in the 1970s. He was a great horseman. He was a kind of a father figure, and he kind of took me under his wing. And I went to work for him until around 1980 when I first opened my own barn in Ocean City. I raced on that circuit: Ocean City, Harrington, sometimes Dover, and Pocono Downs. And this is where I got my first license to drive horses back in 1985.
Wow, so you announced then in June, the rest of the year you're training and working hard.
Well, after August, I would go to Harrington and call the races there through November. Then it was either Dover for a little bit, and then I would come here and kind of start it all over again. And I was on this circuit for about 8 years before I finally went to New York in 1986, 87, right around there. By 1989, I went there with 1 horse, and by 1987 and 88, I had 26, and I was leading trainer in New York for quite a while.
Pretty impressive. And now you were also a driver at one time too, right?
Yeah, but not that good. I started late in life, and I knew that when I came into New York, I wasn't going to compete with guys like Campbell and Hervé Filion, Buddy Gilmore, and I knew that my strength was to train the horses, and right away we did really well. I kind of made a good splash, and I always say that sometimes in this business you make your own success, and success breeds success, and I was kind of lucky to kind of hit a home run right away, and it kind of took off, and I think we did really well in New York. I had a lot of $1 million years, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been a great ride for me. It's hard to explain, but for a lot of young people out there that want to get into this business and have the fun, and if you could have some of the fun that I've had and some of the great experiences meeting wonderful people and a lot of thrills and ups and downs, well, you'd be very lucky if you could accomplish what I did, and I like to see the young people get into the game. It's still such a great game.
Absolutely.
I'm going to let George come up for air for a minute. George, actually, we have something in common. I was a police officer for 9 years as well. So
I thought I locked you up, Brandon. No, that's great. I didn't know that.
Not yet.
Yeah.
George, I want to just talk to you a little bit about you being a trainer, and talk to me about what do you talk to your drivers about, and you have several guys that drive horses for you. When they get in the paddock, when they get on the horse, right before they're going to go on the track, what do you say to a driver when they're going to drive your horse?
Well, first of all, if a horse has some kind of quirks that they have to know about, if they have to be off the gate or the way they should be warmed up, some horses I don't like to warm them up too hard. I might tell a driver to relax the horse and take him to the outrider. A relaxed horse will always race better than a horse that's a little too hot or over warmed up. So, when you're dealing with the great drivers, like at the Meadowlands, which, you're dealing with all the top guys like Manzi and Campbell and all the top guys. I mean, you don't have to tell Brian Sears or Tim Tetrick too much what to do. They kind of know what they're going to do before they ever go behind the gate. So those kind of guys. But when you get somebody new, you might have to tell them a couple of things about the horse and give them an idea of the condition of the horse and how you think he should race maybe, and just give them a little outline. Things change. When that gate opens, a lot of things change. Different people move out of there, and some people unexpectedly leave the gate, and then, a great driver, I always said this about Walter Case. When Case drove for me at Yonkers, I was winning at 40%. And Case was a driver like an NFL quarterback. You know, when you thought he was going to pass the ball, he'd run it, and when you thought that there'd be a running play, he'd pass it. He had the great knack to make a very quick change, and the great drivers make the quick changes to win races, and that's very important, very instinctive. And the great drivers of years ago, and some of the kids that are coming up right here, Tyler Buter, Brandon Simpson, you know, Joe Pavey has been around a long time. I respect Joe. He's had a great career. These guys make these instinctive moves, and these are the moves that make them winners and make them champions.
George, I wanted to talk about one of the horses you have out there tonight, a 6-year-old gelding that Randy thinks is named after him, Mr. Excellent, in the 8th race tonight.
Ask George, he'll tell you.
You know, Randy, you're robbing a lot of my lines here. Mr. Excellent, he come off a very sharp win. Going back about 7 or 8 starts ago, he drew 9s and 10 holes at the Meadowlands. This horse was second to Presidential Order about 8 starts ago in 150 at the Meadowlands. He drew the rail tonight. Comes off a very sharp score. He is very sharp right now. One of the main contenders in the race is out of it there tonight, so that's going to make me pretty tough from the rail. He's got speed, and I made a little change on him. I opened his bridle 2 starts back, and it seemed to relax him a little more. And we've had a good year with him. We claimed him for $40,000 from the Josh Green barn, and we made about 85 or 90 so far, and we have him a year and about another month. So he's done very well for us.
That's really incredible.
George, let's talk about the facility here for a minute. You know, you've mentioned so many other tracks that you've been to in your career.
Yes.
Let's talk about Mohegan Sun here at Pocono Downs. Let's talk about what kind of a track this is.
Well, I want to say, even racing in the 80s, this was a great surface to race on, and it continues to be, in my opinion, and I'm not saying this because I'm here, it is the finest surface a horse can race on. It's really good for the horses, and that's why I concentrate on coming here rather than going to Chester. It's soft on the horses, it's easy on them, and they come out of the races feeling much better than if they're strenuous like at the Meadowlands or Chester. But the facility itself, obviously, since the slots have come here, has been a really, really winner. It's great inside. The people love it. The business is great here. The food is wonderful. And, you know, the name of the game isn't only gambling. It's to have a good time, to bring families and friends. You know, I always say for my owners, you know, bring your friends. Let's take a picture together. Let's watch that video years later and have some fun with it. You know, that's the part of the game that a lot of people seem to miss, you know, the family aspect of it. And, you know, when people want to get involved in this business, a person can come in this business with not too much knowledge and not too much and learn pretty quickly and get involved and be hands-on involved, as opposed to a thoroughbred trainer where you can't get too much hands-on involved.
And you had mentioned your barn is in the Meadowlands. Things don't pan out there. We had talked a little bit before this interview. What are your plans then?
Well, I've been there since 1994 at the Meadowlands. It's my 35th year, like I said before. And this shipping business is kind of tough. It's expensive for our owners, and it's tough. You know, it's 2.5 hours to get here and back. And sometimes we're back home at 2 in the morning, and we got to be back at the barn by 7. And I've always had a little bit of passion for the thoroughbreds, and it's a possibility, a strong possibility, that if the Meadowlands barn area closes, that I will make the switch and go to Belmont Park and train the thoroughbreds for the remaining years that I want to train some horses, and just start another career, I guess, another notch on the belt.
Now, George, getting away from racing altogether, we have something that we do here called the lightning round.
Okay.
I was going to put you in it now, just ask you a couple quick questions and throw out what comes to mind. What's your favorite team? I know you're from the Bronx, so I have a feeling I would know what's coming here.
Well, the Yankees, of course, and the football Giants. When the Yankees played Philly last year, I had to take my hat off and wear something else. I wore a Giant hat so I wouldn't get assassinated in the bar area here.
Do you have a favorite restaurant?
I would say Wolfgang Puck in Wolfgang's rather. It's a steakhouse in Manhattan. It's like a Peter Luger type of place. Yes.
Yeah.
Favorite food though, Maryland steamed crab.
Oh, you can't beat that.
Ocean Downs, yeah, and Haagen-Dazs. As you can see, it's a little too much.
And what about your first job?
My first job in my life.
Yeah.
I worked in a diner as an assistant cook I was about 16 years old, so that's where I started. By 19 though, I was in the police department. 19 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I know you and your wife do a lot of traveling. What's the favorite place you've ever visited?
Well, I've been around the world quite a bit. You know, when the Meadowlands usually closed, we had 3 or 4 months off, and I do extensive traveling. I would say Beijing, China was one of my favorites. Prague now has become one of my favorites, but and Rome. Rome is really beautiful. But last year we went to India, and we went to Russia, and we went to St. Petersburg and Moscow, and we've been all over. It's pretty cool to get away and do things. So, you know, before they hopefully close the lid on me, I want to say I did it all, you know. So we like to get around.
My goodness. Well, you've done done a whole lot in your time so far and seen a lot of places. And thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us tonight.
Thanks so much
Thanks,
for having me. We'd like to wish all of our fans good luck. Have a great night, and we hope we can deliver with Mr. Excellent tonight. And we hope to see you again, Kelly. It's great to be here.
Couldn't say it better myself. Thanks so much, George.
Thanks,
and
guys.
before we take a look at the card tonight,